Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today on this video, we are working in the garage. It's been raining all day, so it was a really good day to just kind of work on the boat. We've got the Dick Hiley St. Jude Bass Classic coming up in, gosh, I leave next week. Crazy. So a week from now, I'm going to be heading up with little Riley. We're going to go on a road trip together, and Mom's going to fly in at the end of the week when she gets off work. Yeah, we're going to have a fun time up there. But I want to make sure that I'm totally prepared for that, because obviously having a little toddler, I'm probably not going to have any time to be able to focus on that once I get there. So we're doing all that ahead of time. But anyways, as I'm rifling through this boat that is an absolute disaster right now, I realized that I really haven't done any videos talking about my tackle storage, or at least not enough videos talking about how I organize my gear. And fishing gear in particular is very difficult to come up with a system that you really like, because there's so many odds and ends. You got soft plastics that don't really fit well and do well in tackle boxes. And then you've got hooks that require, different size compartments and things like that. There's all sorts of things going on that, that make your tackle storage, arsenal very different, and it changes from category to category. Swim baits are a great example. Where do you put those big old swim baits? A lot of things that I have learned over the years are, in my boat right now, and the way that I organize things. So it's evolved. It will continue to evolve as I find new things around the house that weren't necessarily made for storing tackle, but work perfect for certain things. Like I've got a swim bait box that I designed. I don't even know if I have it anymore. Let me look real quick. I've got a swim bait box that I made from scratch. I don't think I have it. I don't see it there. I'll have to do a video specifically on that, because we all know that swim baits, especially if they're expensive ones, soft swim baits, you don't want to just, throw them in a box, because then you've got, kink tails and things like that. But anyways, the whole point is tackle storage can be really frustrating at times. So anyways, I just wanted to show you my system for organization. And we're going to start with the most common box that I use for primarily hard baits. And when I say hard baits, I'm also talking about jigs. I'm talking about chatterbaits, as well as crankbaits, jerk baits, and even like spoons and things like that. And that is a good 3700 size tackle box. So a 3700 size tackle box is the gold standard for organizing tackle, especially in bass boats, but it's also really easy to take with you. You can throw it in a bag. There's plenty of bags out there that are designed to be able to facilitate a 3700 size tackle box or a 3600. We should kind of include the 3700 size tackle boxes in here too. And every brand makes this size, and pretty much every boat brand also designs their main tackle storage container. We've got the center console on the 920 Elite here, or not center console, but the center box here. And it's designed to be able to stack as many 3700s in there as possible. And the great thing about a 3700 tackle box is, you can separate the baits by category and subcategory, and the ways of separating your tackle is endless with these 3700 tackle boxes. And so I can accurately curate my tackle based on the fisheries that I'm going to fish. So if I do want to fish a shallow diving crankbait, but I don't want to fish a flat-sided shallow diving crankbait, I have a flat-sided shallow diving crankbait box and a wide body shallow diving crankbait box, square bill box. And so I can very accurately take the exact tackle that I want to take with me, by separating them in these 3700s and just leaving. You can see a pile of tackle in the background there. I can leave what I don't need and only take what I need. So 3700 size tackle boxes are the, the biggest part of my organization, but also 3600s. If I have, tackle that I don't use as much, or I have fewer items of it in that category, a 3600 is a really good one, and I can fit it on the sides, the side rails of my tackle storage container here, and so it's a really, really good option for smaller areas. Or if you're like pond hopping or something like that, fishing from the bank, 3600, is just less to carry overall. And of course you can change the compartment sizes. A lot of times, if I've got a lot of baits, like chatterbaits, I'll just separate them. I won't even put different compartments there. I'll just leave the compartments completely open, the whole rows completely open, and just, organize them by general color, okay? This is actually a box of the original chatterbaits that I haven't had in my boat for a while, but looking at them, I'm like, we need to put them back in the boat, put them into action. Been too focused on the jackhammer and the Chatterbait Elite Evo and the new Tungsten Evo that I've kind of forgot about the good olds that I've got in that box. But anyways, 3700 tackle boxes, the regular clear boxes, very, very easy and relatively inexpensive to buy and to organize your tackle. I'm going to be putting links in the description below for the boxes, all the organization stuff that we're talking about, that I recommend you try, in the description below, so check those out. But when it comes to just these plain, generic, clear, 3700s or 3600s, just get the best that you possibly can. Or the best that you can for the cheapest that you can. So if they're going on sale, it doesn't really matter the brand as much for these generic style, even though you do get what you pay for in a lot of cases. What really starts mattering as far as like brand and price point and things like that is when you get into kind of like the waterproof versions of these. They also have some versions that have like little holes in them, so they drain the water. I know that Plano has some of those. I've used those before, and I think they work really good, because one of the issues that you have if you're moving baits in and out of a storage box is if it's a closed one like this, it doesn't have vent holes, or it's a waterproof one, you don't want to put a wet piece of tackle back into a box that isn't going to release that moisture. And so you want to really be careful if you're putting baits back in a box like this and it doesn't have those vent holes, and it was just previously wet, you might need to, let it dry before you put it back in there. That's why I have a bunch of tackle that accumulates right here in this section of the boat. Is a lot of times I just want to make sure that it dries before I put it back in the box. And also I'm lazy. And that's a big part of it too. All right, so in talking about like the waterproof versions of the 3700s and 3600s, I do use some waterproof versions of the 3700s primarily, and I use them generally for my terminal tackle. Okay, those pieces of terminal tackle, I just don't have enough money to rotate out all of my cheap 3700 boxes for waterproof versions, because those are generally like $20 a pop. You can buy some at Harbor Freight for a little bit cheaper, but I find that those aren't very good quality. So I do kind of tend to stick with the Flambeau or the Plano style. But I use those for primarily terminal tackle. So I've got maybe 2 or 3 of those that I use in the waterproof category. And again, I do not put a wet jig head back into the box. I wait until it dries out completely. So anyways, enough rambling on about the 3700s. The next one that I want to show you is the 3700 deep boxes that are available. Again, Most brands make them. This is a Plano. This is the one that I like to use. The link will be in the description below. But I use the deep versions in special categories. And my favorite use for the deep version is for storing my hooks. Now, I have struggled with my hook storage for years. Okay, this is something that I really didn't feel great about the way I was storing my hooks until about 2 years ago when I started using the 3700 deep versions. And the reason why that's the case is that I always found that if I took the hooks out of the packages, I would always have rust problems, and also just the vibrations and rattling around in the box all loose caused some of the hooks to dull, you know, before they were even used. And so I ended up starting to use a just straight deep 3700 box, and started keeping all of my hooks in their original packaging. Okay, they fit perfectly in this box, in these little you know, sections, and I section it off based on the you know, type of hook I need. Like, we've got offset shank hooks up here. We've got a whole row for EWG style hooks like the Hayabusa 959 or 956, and then or the crossbred hook that I just started using. And then we get into more specialized stuff like we've got drop shot hooks, wacky rig hooks, we've got straight shank drop shot hooks, we've got trailer hooks, all those sort of things. I keep them in the bag. And the one thing that I'll do is I will not put a used hook back in the original packaging. So when I take, for instance, a Hayabusa 959 out and go flipping with it, once it dries out, I cut it off the line, and once it dries out, I don't put it back in the bag. I'll just put it at the bottom of that compartment, so I know that it is a used hook. And you know, you can see down there, there's maybe a little bit of a rust stain. This has been a box that I've used for several years now, but there's not much corrosion at all. And these little baggies stay completely dry. So this is how I have found it's the best way to store my hook selection overall. And it also gives you an accurate understanding of like what the model number is and the sizes that you want, and all that stuff. So you can know when you're getting low on something. So anyways, you can see that's pretty cram-packed. I think I'm pretty good as far as my inventory for this box right now. But I use the deep 3700 waterproof ones for my terminal tackle, especially my hook box. I'll use deep 3700 style that are not waterproof for things like you know, 10XDs or those real big bodied crankbaits. Sometimes I use them for buzz baits if I don't have like a specialized box for the buzz baits. I kind of flip back and forth between like a specialized you know, buzz bait box, one that has, you know, certain clips that clip onto the wire and stuff like that, and you know, just the traditional deep style box. But obviously, if you have a bigger bait that doesn't fit well in a traditional depth 3700, you go to the deep one. But this is what I wanted to show you the most of. This box right here, this waterproof Plano, is the deal for storing your hooks, at least in my book. We just talked about specialized. This is a mess right now, so this will probably resonate with everybody out there because it looks like everybody else's spinnerbait box. But this is a spinnerbait box full of the Sling Baits Power Finesse spinnerbaits, and I also have some inline rooster tails. Should have had that for the White River. But I do like to use this 3600 size for some of the smaller spinnerbaits, and also the 3700 size spinnerbait box for my other spinnerbaits. I've got a box that is for 3/8 ounce to 1/2 ounce sizes, and then I've got another spinnerbait box for the 3/4 ounce and heavier spinner baits. So I do use these style spinnerbait boxes. I've tried the deep ones, the ones that are like cubes that have the hangers. I go to those and I just do not like them as much. I really do like these style because number one, they fit in seamlessly with the rest of my tackle storage, the 3700s and 3600s in my storage container. And if you don't have a special spot for those big cubes in your boat, it just rattles around and they end up like turning over and things like that in rough water. So I find that this style really tends to keep my spinnerbaits much more organized, but I'll leave that up to your personal preference. All right, so now we're gonna get into a couple of tackle boxes that I think are a little bit more, a little bit more specialized. And that's this one right here. I call this the double decker. This is a Plano box. Again, all the links will be in the description below. I carry 2 of these. This is my terminal tackle box. I'm not talking about jig heads or hooks or something like that. I'm talking about weights, beads, snaps, swivels, all that stuff. I love these double decker boxes from Plano. Don't work with Plano at all. These are all, things that I've just found over the years. So I've got 2 of these and I open it up. You've got 2 different levels. The top level is kind of the core of my weight selection. So got a lot of the tungsten Fitzgerald weights in here, T-pegs, flipping collar or flipping skirts, punch skirts rather. And some, swivels and stuff like that to make Carolina rigs. So all that is on the top. So most of what I need is right there on the top. And then you've got the bottom compartment. And that's why I like these tackle boxes, is that you've got this double decker style. And on the bottom here, I like to carry all of my drop shot weights. That's a mess, so nobody look. And then we've got all different types of other weights. We've got like the Nico Shrooms jig heads in here. We've got the tungsten nail weights for the rattlesnaker. We got some solder wire for, weighting down jerk baits and stuff like that. Even got those Cheb rig weights that I showed you guys in a video. It's a technique that is real popular in Russia and Europe. They catch a lot of perch with them, but it's also really good for bass fishing. We did that video in the past, but we've also got like shrink tubing, anything that I need that is kind of a lure customization deal. I've gotten, or weights rather, in here, lure customization when it comes to weights. And then I've got another one of these that I didn't take out for you, but it is loaded, the top half is loaded with all of the treble hooks that I like to carry with me, all the TBL 930s from Hayabusa. And then below that, we've got some other lure customization things in there. In fact, while I'm talking about it, I realized that there's one thing I wanted to show you, and I think it's in that box. So let me run in the boat real quick. Bear with me. There's so much to talk about when it comes to tackle storage. All right. So the second one is like, if it's not weight related, it's in here. Oh man, did I get rid of it? I did get rid of it. But anyways, I'll show you that. But I can still talk about it. So what I was trying to find is I found early on that, trying to organize like little barrel swivels or bearing swivels or snaps or split rings, those were pretty hard. And so one thing I started to do is started to eat a lot more Tic Tacs. And those Tic Tac containers, especially the smaller ones, are really, really good for storing your tackle. Just label one of those suckers. You got a clear little container that you know, you can pour out individual little pieces of tackle, and it fits in a 3700 style tackle box generally. I haven't tried it in a while. I guess I've just kind of replaced that system with just keeping the original packaging for a lot of this stuff. But anyways, that's a good tip. If you want to go eat some Tic Tacs, I like the orange ones. You know, keep the little containers for tackle storage. But anyways, this double decker has a lot of the other lure customizations on the bottom. Got like wacky rig collars. You got the snaps that we've talked about in recent videos, all that different types of stuff, rattlesnaker stuff. And I even carry some, you know, spinnerbait blades with me. Not as much as I probably should, but anyways, those double-decker style ones are really useful. I really like these. I generally only use them for what I just showed you. But it's also easy for me to be like, if I'm fishing with somebody else and they ask for, you know, a weight or something like that, I can say, go to the gray double-decker boxes and it'll be on the top of that, as opposed to, you know, it's in one of the 3700 tackle boxes that I've got 20 of in there. So anyways, real easy to organize everything in those. The next one that I want to show you is another specialized box. I've talked about it on this channel a couple times earlier this year, but it's one that I really, really like. And again, we'll put the link in the description below. This box right here, okay? This box is really cool. So it's a really thin box. I bought it at a local tackle shop. I've got 3 of them in there, or 4 of them in there now. And the reason why I like it is that there's certain pieces of terminal tackle, jig head specifically, for swim baits and also bottom bouncing baits, like Ned rigs and things like that, or shaky heads, that I like to keep things simple. There's only like 1 or 2 that I really, really like. And so I don't want those just rattling around in a generic jig head box where, again, they could, you know, get the finish marred on them or chipped on them, and the hook points are, you know, dulling down. I want them tip-top condition from the finish to the tip of the hook point. And so this one right here, you can see this EVA foam lining. It's got slits cut into it. I can keep all of my jig heads that I use on a regular basis very, very organized and protected. And so I really like this style box a lot for my most used and most prized terminal tackle. So I've got one for my shaky heads. You can see here we've got that discontinued Z-Man shaky head, ball head style jig head, and then we've got the SMH Worms jig head here. Those are the only 2 jig heads that I generally use. And then I've got one for Ned rig heads. I've got one for my you know, swim, or my like minnow jig heads, you know, that are real popular for forward-facing sonar nowadays. And then I've got another one for swim bait heads, you know, for some of my favorite swim bait heads, like the Finesse Eyes swim bait jig head. So that pretty much does it. An honorable mention that I want to show you guys is one that I started to use for real specific you know, categories. So like if I'm going out and all I'm doing is forward-facing sonar fishing, you know, fishing like a jig head minnow, I started using these cubes here that Z-Man makes. I carry all my jig heads up here at the top, and then I'll carry all the soft plastics down here. So it's just one bag that I can carry with me. And I use this generally. You can see this is empty right now. That's because I've kind of just used my traditional soft plastic and jig head system, including, you know, this box that I just showed you, and Ziplocs, which I still need to show you. But when I go travel and go fishing with a buddy that's going to be doing this, or a certain thing, I'll travel with this, and that'll be my tackle for the day. So I do like those. But now we need to talk about soft plastic in a LazTech storage. So I'm a big believer. You know, when I first started fishing, I used to take everything out of the bag and put them in a 3700 style tackle box. Now, those of you that have tried to do that with a LazTech have experienced an issue where it actually it could potentially melt, you know, together in that type of scenario, or get disfigured. So I generally, with all my soft plastics, will keep them in big bags like this. You can see this one is labeled for reaction trailers. So, you know, all the trailers for jerk bait, or for chatterbaits, swim jigs, things like that. But this has been the system that I feel the best with, the most comfortable with. I will carry most of them in my day box. And again, it allows me to curate, you know, my tackle selection, my soft plastics, and the LazTech selection based on the place that I'm fishing. So using the Ziploc bags is still pretty much the deal. But yeah, I haven't really found a better system. I know that there's some companies that make some really bomber bags that aren't going to fall apart like regular Ziplocs, but I do like using the Ziplocs. And I like using the 2.5 gallon Ziplocs if I'm bringing a lot of one category of soft plastic. So anyways, I'll show you real quick. I know this is a long video, but I'll show you real quick how I store my other tackle, my auxiliary gear. We're gonna move to the other side of the garage here. So generally when I'm fishing, I'm gonna be carrying quite a bit of extra tackle with me. So I've got boxes upon boxes of general, you know, categories of soft plastics. So we got like finesse and jig trailers. You got like worms and stick baits, swim baits, all that different type of stuff. I won't carry all these with me at all times, but if I'm going to, say, when I went up to fish in Arkansas at Norfolk, I'm gonna bring the finesse. I'm gonna bring the worms and stick baits. I'm gonna bring the swim baits. I might leave the creatures and craws, would leave the dippers and speed worms, jerk baits and toads, you know, depending on the season. So I'll just, you know, pick baits or pick boxes based on, you know, the fishing that I think I'm gonna do. So I don't have to go to a tackle shop and buy more tackle, because I got way too much tackle anyways. And then we've got other storage, you know, like if we're on a crazy jig bite or something like that, I've got a whole box full of Z-Man jigs and stuff like that. So that's kind of how I organize all my tackle. This is actually a longer video than I thought it would be. So anyways, guys, hopefully that kind of answers some of those questions that viewers have had about my tackle storage. This is how I do it. These are the boxes that I use, at least for now, until I find something better. So anyways, guys, thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day today. And yeah, just make sure you trust the process, and I'm gonna see you out on the water.